So, welcome back to another Value Bomb Wednesdays. Today's video is going to be a little different because instead of just giving you guys a ton of like, here's a bunch of credit knowledge, I want to introduce you guys to one of our more recent clients, Colin. I'll let him talk a little bit more about himself and kind of walk you guys through what his experience was like, how much were we able to get him and, what he plans to do with it. I'm on here all the time talking about funding, building up your credit, but I want to start introducing you guys to the real clients that we have, how it's being able to impact them, and hopefully, you guys are learning a shit ton of stuff from this channel. And if you guys do want some more of that hand holding, somebody who's going to be able to guarantee you guys those results, then we're always open for business. But at the very least, I hope you guys get a ton of value, whether it's from this video or the past ones or the future ones. But awesome, man. Appreciate you having you, Colin. You mind just kind of sharing a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. A little bit of background. I essentially was working in sales for 4 or 5 years. Yeah, about 5 years, working in tech sales. And during that time, like everyone here, most likely, was really focused on side hustles, right? Like, what can
Yeah.
I do to separate me from the pack? What can I do to take me out of the mundane Monday through Friday, 9 to 5? And over those 5 years, I have dove into many industries. Some might call it, shiny object syndrome, and I definitely think that that's accurate. I have a severe case of shiny object syndrome.
Yep.
But within that, I've definitely found the areas that I am most interested in and have been able to dwindle that down over the past years, primarily into real estate. And then second to that, any service that I can really, whether it's buying a business or buying a service with a profit share, and something that you guys might all be aware of, things like Amazon, eBay, really just e-commerce, drop shipping, things along those lines. And so with that being said, what I do now, actually over the last year, I've been running my own marketing agency with a partner of mine. I've been doing a few other things, but with that time being allotted to me, moving away from my 9 to 5, I've really taken up wanting to secure more funding after finding myself in a position of fixing my own credit. Miguel was someone who actually helped me guide me along those lines of fixing my credit. Fortunately, that was something I dove into. And Miguel, as you know, I worked with Jack.
Hmm.
You helped me out there, and it really gave me a lot of information in the industry and something I was able to do myself. However, moving forward, really in the last 2, 3 months, Miguel and I got connected at a creative meetup in San Diego. It was a great opportunity. I hadn't seen him in probably 4
Yeah, dude. Like in
years.
person, it'd been years. Because
Yeah.
even before that, you and I, like you said, we're just kind of going back and forth just on Instagram, just like
Mhm.
keeping up. And it was funny too, because like before I even had like any sort of offer, you're just like, oh, what's this thing about credit? Like, didn't even like sell you anything. It was just like, hey, here's some shit. Like, so it's great to one that we were finally able to connect after all those years in person, but also just like it was awesome to also have you on like as a paid client too, just because we had just built up this relationship and just been talking about credit for like, years at that point, you know what I mean?
Probably 2 years, we probably talked about it. I mean, you helped me kind of get into that space as well. And obviously, I was still working
Mhm.
at Samsara at the time.
Dude, you
Uh,
were hustling, bro. This guy had like two, three. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you had a side hustle too on top of that or something. So you were working at least two, like maybe three things at the same time.
yeah, there was a 6 month period where I did have 3 jobs that I was actually getting paid for. And I had like, and I had my own side hustle.
Let's
Um,
go.
and
That's
it
what it
was,
takes.
I would not recommend it to anybody. I mean, I would, but at the same time, I would say like just understand like what you can commit and what you can't commit. Don't over commit yourself to something that you actually don't have the time to like invest in. Um,
Hmm.
I've learned those lessons both positively and negatively, just by seeing like, hey, this isn't working out purely because I don't have the time to commit to this. And fortunately for me, though, it was kind of a part of my journey, and I did a lot of learning. And a part of that, one of those things that I think is really important for everybody to learn is I think I really truly understand what people mean by pick one thing and do it well.
Yeah.
Uh, and so that's actually ties in really well into why I actually, when you and I met up 2 months ago, and you and I kind of started talking about the done for you service, because fortunately for me, Family Legacy University is definitely something I would consider doing. For me, it would just be a little bit more time on the real estate side and like really partnering with you. I think that's what that relationship would look like. But in the
Yeah.
meantime, when I sat down with you and you were like, hey, I'm also kind of doing this done for you, that's where I was like, you know what, we have an immediate opportunity. Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of opportunities that it's just not right time, not right place, but there's opportunity down the line. You don't know when that's going to come. But when you mentioned the done for you, I was like, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's run with it. What's it going to hurt? There's a percentage, there's a cost to that, there's a cost to everything. But literally, what was it? 2 weeks, I had a 50K approval. You connected me with a relationship manager, kind of guided me through those steps, through those processes, allowed me to kind of navigate that myself as well, which was really helpful because now I have a better understanding
Yeah.
how that process works. But literally, it's in my mailbox right now. I've been gone for the last 4 days, and I don't have my mailbox key, but I was hoping to swipe that card for you
Oh,
right now
damn.
on camera.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you'll be getting it in probably a few hours when my fiance gets back home and I get that mailbox key.
No
But you could
worries.
literally call this mailbox money, like no joke. 50K, 0% for the next 12 months. And I'm actually going to be utilizing this for my second Amazon store. Um,
Oh,
yeah, so if you have any questions there, happy to, answer any questions, talk about it a little bit more, whatnot.
dude, that's dope. Damn, this is the second one. And yeah, no, it was really cool when we first started talking about it too, because like I work with a lot of clients too who are like, oh, I want to get coached, and they hop in. And I'm like, bro, I'm like following up with you more than you're following up with me. Like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
just like do it for you so I can get paid out. You know what I mean? And it was like really cool how you just kind of understood. It's like, look, like I'm doing these three things. Like, I'm just gonna pay somebody to do it for me. I don't have the time for it, and I feel like that's something like you said with the shiny object syndrome, or just being able to focus on one thing, dialing it in. It is something that people have that mistake is they'll be like, oh, I got a real estate business. I'm just gonna go learn how to do this funding thing on my own. But it's like, do you really want to learn all the ins and outs of this? Because like it does take time. You're gonna make mistakes, and it's like at the end of the day, for you, your business is e-commerce, not funding,
Yeah.
right? I could just get cheap capital and blow this up without having to spend a month, 2, 3 months, whatever, however long it'll take you for you to learn this. Then boom, like we literally got that second e-commerce store in 2 weeks. So that's fucking
Yep.
awesome.
No, exactly. And I mean, a huge thing too, like most people don't know, but in the e-commerce space, especially Amazon, whether you're doing FBA, FBM, it's essentially a net 60, net 90
Mhm.
payback. So that 0% interest is super important if you want to be able to scale. And what a lot of people do is they'll go 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and they start to get that traction. If you guys aren't aware of e-commerce, it's very much traction and momentum based. And what I mean by that is, as you start selling and Amazon sees the success or Amazon sees the positive reviews, eBay, Amazon, really any of these e-commerce platforms, they will push you to the top as you build momentum until you get kind of that best seller badge or
Mhm.
Amazon recommended, whatever those badges look like. And really, that's the goal. That's kind of like the primary goal because when Amazon or eBay starts to push your product at the top of its, category list, that's when you really get that momentum. And you don't want to have no capital allotted because let's say one day you wake up, you get pushed there and you get 2,000 orders, which that would be an amazing day. That's not
Yeah.
highly likely, but if it happens and you don't have that capital in the back end to support all of those purchases, you're going to lose out on all those purchases. So for me, this was kind of like not an all in, but it was like definitely like putting my foot down and saying, hey, you know what? I'm ready to go. And Christmas is right here. Black Friday starts tomorrow. My store is up and running.
Let's
And
go. Hell
let's get as
yeah.
many orders in as we can. But again, I think the important part is if you don't have the right amount of capital, and it's kind of rule of thumb with gambling too. I'm not a big gambler. I do know a lot of people that gamble, but one of the big rules of thumb, whether you're playing poker, whether you're playing, you're playing roulette, you're playing blackjack, it doesn't matter what you're playing. When you go to gamble, if you're planning on gambling $300 tonight, you should have $900 with you. And you should continue to bet consistently. Just because you have 3x what you're planning on betting doesn't mean, oh, I should bet 3x more aggressively. No, stick to the plan, right? But have that in the background because there's a psychological effect, and I can't remember what the term is, but there is a literal psychological effect of having that extra cash or extra capital that allows you to continue to manage and gamble
Mhm.
and bet effectively, consistently, and not go out of move out of your means.
Yeah. I, I
Um,
I think just to add on that too, because it's just like I've talked to people where they're like, for example, they're investing in real estate and they only have 50 grand, like that's all they've got saved up. And I think to kind of like tie that into what you're saying with like that gambling psychology, it's just like if you only have 50 grand, you're going to be very like almost like too scared to take any action. Like the second you get any sort of pushback, you're like, fuck, I'm going to cut my losses, right?
yep.
Versus if you have like what you're saying, if you're going to bet 300, have 900, not that you're going to spend the full 900, but you could at least have some comfortability if it gets pushed, like if your business gets pushed back a little bit, you have that comfort. And I think to tie that kind of like ties in together that psychology is that like I'm not just because I have more doesn't mean I'm just gonna like, you know, bet or gamble recklessly, but it does
Yeah.
give you some more of that safety net. I'm like, okay, I could afford a couple of mistakes, I could learn from it and push forward on it. Cause like exactly with what you said with ecom, it's just like, you might have like a slow week or whatever. That doesn't mean you should stop, right? Or you
Hmm.
might have like a week, you might be pushing super hard and it's just like, well, fuck, we don't have any more money to keep the ball going, right? So,
Exactly. And to your point too, fortunately I understand and know the real estate space well enough,
mhm,
but you have 50 grand to go into a property, right? And one of the properties I've been looking into, a lot of them have been in Detroit. Um,
mhm,
and with 50 grand, you can definitely get into a property, right? But let's say with that 50 grand, you go into a property, inspection's great, all this stuff, you sign, right? You don't have contingencies on certain things and you get yourself in a pickle and they need a new roof
yeah,
and was somehow overlooked in the inspection. That's not a $5,000 fix. That's not a $10,000 fix. That's most likely a 20 or $30,000, if not north of that fix, right? And repair. So if you go in with 50 grand and you've spent 20 already or 30 already just on that down payment, and now all of a sudden you need to spend that extra 20 that you have allotted towards everything else on just a roof, you don't have any extra capital, your FUD is going to kick in like a motherfucker,
yeah,
right? You are literally all that fear, all that uncertainty, and all that doubt that you've been building as this momentum, as this process has been coming to fruition, as you're about to hit the precipice of everything that you've been looking forward to. Now you just get shot down. That's not what you want. So take that.
mhm,
I mean, if you're getting 50 grand at 10%, right? And it costs you $5,000, but you still have 45 grand sitting in the bank, knowing, hey, if something goes wrong, I have access to this. That could literally be the difference of you deciding to move forward or you, like you said, cutting your losses. And
mhm.
an investment on that big, why would you want to move forward that far into the process just to pull
Just
out?
to pull
Right.
out. Exactly. Yeah, and that's what I see a lot too, is just like people like, okay, I'm just gonna use just my savings and then I'll rely on like other lending stuff, which like isn't necessarily bad. Like I was talking to a client recently, she was like, oh, I've got all the savings. I don't want to blow through my savings. So I'm kind of looking at lending. And then she's just like she couldn't swallow the fact that she had to like pay some sort of like fee to it. But I'm like, look, what cheaper money are you going to get? Yes, you have your savings, but you just said you don't want to blow through all that. Because also, too, once you blow through all that, like I'll see people starting to run up their personal credit cards. I'm like, bro, like that's also the last thing you want to do. Because once those are maxed out, now we can't get any 0%
Hmm.
business credit funding. So it's just like, I mean, I have savings too. And personally, like all of it's in fucking Bitcoin. And I know for myself, if I could bet into something that's going to appreciate longer and I could just use 0% business credit to start investing in shit. And if like worst case scenario, I can't pay that back, I just have all my savings in an appreciating asset, pay that off, and then also on top of it, it's already got like X amount of like profit from what I originally put in. And that's actually what I'm gonna sell a Bitcoin to buy my house in San Diego next year. So yeah, it's just like all about playing the game, knowing where you're putting that money, and not being too frugal with just the savings, because also too like you can only save so much and it's going to take a shit ton of time to get to whatever savings goal you're trying to get to.
Yep, exactly. And you kind of like you hit the nail on the head there. And I would reiterate the exact same thing to everybody based on my knowledge. Is I have all my money tied up in the stock market as you're kind of aware, Miggle. But for me, I believe in the same thing. Why not? Yes, I can leverage my money. I can utilize my money in the market and I can wipe it out. No problem at all.
Yeah.
However, trust me, we could do
Yeah.
it.
It takes
But
your whole life to save, and then it takes one transaction to get rid of all of it.
literally,
So,
dude, it's like it's a what is it, a house of cards, basically? Like, just take one out of the bottom and it all collapses there, right? So why not utilize OPM? And then in the instance that something does go wrong and you were already planning on paying with your own money, utilizing your money to pay that
exactly.
0% down, anyone who's learned anything from Miggle thus far knows that on the business credit side, as long as your utilization is under 50%, you still qualify for another 0% card. So why not give yourself that leverage to be able to, you know what, something does go wrong, but I got 50 grand, 0% interest. Something went wrong. I need to use my own money to pay it off. Well, let's just pay 25K off, leverage another card, right? And now
Hmm.
at least we're not utilizing 50,000 of our own dollars. We only used half, and we're now utilizing leverage to get ourselves out of this hole again. Again, you still have the same goal in mind that you have that 50K to be able to save yourself, save your ass, right?
Hmm.
That's not the goal, but you have that safety net. So use your money as your safety net, not as your initial leverage in any transaction. I would definitely reiterate
Exactly.
that.
Yeah, and with that safety net too, it's also appreciating. So it's just like you're making potential money on both ends of the spectrum. So that's
Mhm.
awesome. Yeah, dude, I love that. As far as this, now that you got the second e-commerce store, the first one, how's that doing? How do you expect the second one about to come up, especially now with like the holiday seasons, now that we got the funding to support it?
Yeah, no, I'm really excited for this one. So my second store is a little bit different. My first one's an FBM store. My second's an FBA store. And basically how they operate is just like direct from supplier. It's differences in drop shipping, moving to a warehouse, and then going somewhere else, purchasing through a third party like Walmart or a Home Depot, and
Mhm.
then going somewhere else, right? Versus going directly out of an Amazon warehouse and purchasing inventory. So I'm really excited because the 50K is going to really allow me to begin my own store where I'm managing my own inventory. And everything I'm purchasing is based off of basically just market analytics, what's going well. For those of you that don't know, the biggest consumers in e-commerce are 25 to 45-year-old women.
All
Shocker.
right, I gotta start
Uh,
making ads towards that then.
yeah. Shocker, I think not. I think all of us have moms, sisters, wives, girlfriends who you've seen hundreds of Amazon packages come in any given month, especially these months moving forward, or at least next month with the holidays. But with that being said, like there's so much opportunity there, and I'm just excited to be able to purchase a large amount of inventory and begin selling directly through Amazon FBA. But other than that, yeah, I mean, specifics wise, like I said, like I told you, I mean, I guess it's worth everyone else knowing. I essentially bought into a Amazon, I bought into a business who already manages Amazon stores, and essentially it's a profit share. So for me, right, I was able to get this 50K. I have a 60-40 profit share. I take 60, they take 40 of everything I sell, and essentially I need to get out. I need to push out about 90 days of sales. I'll put my store on hold, just so I get paid out, pay off my 0%. It'll probably be about a 30 to 45-day pause, just so I can get ahead of the curve. So that way I'm not sitting on a net 60, net 90 permanently. So I'll put the store on pause, pay off my credit cards, get back into the motion. And at that point, I will really just be looking at like a net 30. So I'm really excited.
Dude, fuck yeah. That's awesome, dude. 2025, about to glow up.
Hmm.
Oh yeah. And I mean, as far as this, like, what's kind of like some advice you'd give to someone who is in that same position of just like, oh, I don't have funds, I have this opportunity that could, help me grow. Like, what would you want to tell them if they were in that same position that you were before?
Yeah, I would definitely understand, really try to figure out, I mean, even based off the conversation I'm having with Miguel now, try to understand where you're at in your position. Am I to a point where I understand what's going on, I understand what needs to be executed, and all I need is funding, right? And if that's the case, if you're right there, do the done for you. Like just get the funding, learn the process through doing the process, right? Through Miguel. He guides you through the process, basically handholds you and does most of the work for you. Granted, you have to do your own work. Don't forget, right? You're working with a professional institution. Miguel cannot sign your name without possibly getting himself in trouble, right? So you do need to submit paperwork. You do need to sign your name somewhere, right? You're going to have to do that either way. Allow someone to guide you and open that door for you and say, hey, this is the right door, as opposed to walking into a hallway with 100 doors and trying to figure out which door is the correct door, right? It's all about relationships. And with that being said, the number one thing here in terms of funding is if you've never done funding before and you don't understand what kind of relationships you need to access that capital, and that is what the service you're paying for is. I want to make that super clear. Without that, though, you're not going to figure it out on your own unless you know someone else who's already done it time and time again. And I'm not saying once or twice, I'm talking 10, 15, 20 times, right? Because that's when they've established that relationship to be able to introduce you to these other people. Miggle has those relationships, and sometimes that's what you're paying for, right? You're paying to get into the room with the right people. You're paying to meet the right person that you want as a client, or you're paying to meet the right individual who can get you the capital you need. And if we've learned anything about this big game of Monopoly we play, you need to pass go.
Yeah.
And like passing go, the best way to pass go is honestly pay for a taxi ride, right? Pay for a train ride, pay for a plane ticket, whatever that is. Essentially, though, think of Miggle in that analogy as your train ticket, right? As your plane ride. He's taking you on that journey. He's going to drop you off at the doorstep you need to be at in order to get the funding you need. And if you're smart enough, you will understand the process too. And not to say that I can't utilize Miggle later, right? But I do have an extra relationship in my bag now.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've essentially paid someone for that relationship, right? But now I also know how that process works. So something comes up down the line, maybe Miggle is not available. I can at least navigate that relationship myself a little bit stronger than I could have last time, right? And
Yeah.
I do have other businesses, so I'm going to be doing this. I'm definitely going to be utilizing the same relationship manager again for other businesses because I don't have a Chase Bank credit card with them or one that's already at 0%. So now I can leverage that relationship to get other 0% within the same bank. Reminder, right? You guys need a different relationship manager at every bank or every institution that you work with, right? So when I'm ready for Amex, trust me, the next guy that I'm coming back to is going to be
running it up again.
right back here, right? Just for another bank and another relationship. But we'll definitely be back to, invest in those relationships more.
Dude, hell yeah, man. Well, dude, super well said, dude. Thanks for hyping it up, and I appreciate just the honesty and the experience and just being able to chop it up. And thank you for taking the time to, just being able to interview and just tell us your story, dude. Yeah, man, I'm super excited for 2025. We got the funding. We're gonna keep growing. Let's get after it. Hell
Yep,
yeah.
absolutely. If you ever need me, want me to pop in, want me to do a live testimonial, talk to the team ever, feel free to hit me up. I'm always happy to help out and excited to see you at the next event. I was proposing during the last one.
No, dude, don't even worry about it. Hell yeah. Well, cool, dude. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on this Value Bomb Wednesday. Thank you. Shout out to Colin for being out here, taking the time, educating you guys. And as usual, peace out. Much love. Stay beautiful. And we'll see you guys in the next one.